Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here, and in today's video, we're going to be breaking down the Week 9 Monday Night Football Showdown slate on Draftkings. Got Week 9 closing out Monday night with the Patriots and the Jets. Not the most exciting game overall, not the best game to watch, but big tournaments once again on Draftkings. They're running another Millionaire Maker for this Monday night game, so we'll be sure to break down this Showdown slate, start at the top of the player pool and work our way down. We'll talk about all the playable options, all the guys that I do have interest in for this Showdown slate. And towards the end of the video, we'll talk about roster construction as well, how I'm looking to build out my lineups, who I want to build with, or who I want to start my lineups with at captain, whether I'm looking to pay up at captain, or if I think there's some cheap plays, I'll be sure to hit on that as well. But before we do get started, guys, as always, I would appreciate it if you would hit that like button down below. If you are new to the channel, be sure to click that subscribe button as well. I do post a lot of NFL content to this YouTube channel. Get up videos for every Monday night and Thursday night Showdown slate. I make videos for the main slate as well. NBA is going to be starting in like a month or so. I believe like late December. So I'll be back to making NBA videos every single day once that gets here as well. So got a ton of content coming out to the channel. Would appreciate it if you would hit that subscribe button, and be sure to click the notification bell so that way you do get notified every time I upload, and you'll never miss out on any of my new videos. And lastly, if you do really enjoy these videos and if they help you and you want to get more content from me, you want to see more that I do have to offer, you can check out the Patreon, link down below in the description. You can see all that I do have to offer over on Patreon if that interests you. But let's go ahead and take a look at this slate. We will start off at the top of the player pool with our most expensive option, which is Cam Newton. Very expensive, $13,200 if you want to play him in the flex. He is $19,800 as a captain play. So I think overall Cam Newton, I would say by far is like the highest projected player on the slate. He hasn't been great this season, especially as of late. He was really good weeks 1 and 2 against the Dolphins and against Seattle, and then since then, everything's kind of went downhill. He had a really bad game against the Raiders. Then he tested positive for COVID, made his return in week 6. Didn't have the best game against Denver, 20 DK points. Was really bad against the 49ers, just 2 DK points. And then last week against Buffalo, had your typical Cam Newton game. Didn't throw for much, only 174 passing yards, but he was able to get it done through the ground. 9 rushing attempts, 54 yards, and a rushing touchdown, 19 DK points. Cam Newton just, he's one of those guys that gets it done through the ground. He's one of those guys that maybe, let's say he just throws for 150 yards and 1 touchdown. Like, he can still give you 20, 25 DraftKings points even with, just 150 yards and a passing touchdown, because he can add 75 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown. They use him so much near the goal line. Like, at this point, he's kind of like their goal line back. His rushing upside is it's so high. I mean, he's up there with like Kyler, Lamar, guys that can, have the chance to get 50, 60, 70 rushing yards and rushing touchdown, if not multiple. So I do really like Cam Newton. It's really hard not to like him. I mean, he projects out, I would say, as the best play on this Showdown slate. It's going to be tough to pay up for him, but, you can make it work. We'll talk about some cheaper plays I do like. I think Cam is fine to play at captain as well. Normally, I don't play quarterbacks at captain, but Cam by far has, like, the most upside, in my opinion. Like, he could definitely, it would not surprise me at all if he's the highest scoring player overall on the slate, just because, he can throw for 150 yards, 2 touchdowns, and then run for 60 yards and a touchdown and put up, like, close to 30 DK points. He's got that kind of upside. So I do really like Cam Newton. Jamison Crowder, he's listed as questionable, but all signs are pointing to him playing. Last I saw, he was a limited participant in Friday's practice, but I'm pretty sure I saw a report that he was expected to play. So I'm assuming that Crowder does play. When Crowder's been healthy this season, he's been great for fantasy. Been a target monster, double-digit targets in every game, double-digit DK points in every game. Sam Darnold is not expected to play. He is doubtful, so maybe that is a little bit of a bump down for Crowder. It does seem like Crowder, performs a little bit better when Darnold's under center rather than Joe Flacco. But I expect the targets to be there. He's their number 1 receiver. He's been a target monster when he's been healthy. So at $11,200, he is definitely a guy you can pay up for. In terms of upside, I feel a little bit like better with Cam. I think Cam gives you a little more upside. I think Cam probably the guy I would prefer to pay up for at captain. But I really have no problems with Crowder. He's one of the better pay-up options as well. Like I said, Sam Darnold is doubtful, not expected to play. So we'll talk about Joe Flacco in a second. Before we get there, though, you do have Damien Harris, who is also questionable. There's a lot of guys that are questionable for this game. Definitely like Crowder, Harris are the 2 big ones. There's some guys on the defensive end that are questionable as well. Harris, though, I believe is expected to play as well. He was also limited throughout the week in practice, but all signs are pointing to him playing. I really don't see any reason why he wouldn't play. Assuming he does, he's probably my preferred Patriots running back to go to. I know he's the most expensive, but I feel like his workload is the most secure out of him, Rex Burkhead, James White. Harris is the guy that has the potential to get close to 20 touches. He doesn't really get any usage in the passing game, which is obviously a concern. I don't love rostering, running backs on DraftKings that don't get pass catching upside because, with the full PPR scoring, I want running backs that can catch 4 to 5 balls. That's not really the case with Damien Harris, but in this game script, a game where they are favored by 10 points right now, just a 41 total, but in a game where they're favored by 10 points, you would expect the Patriots to be playing with a lead. I think we're going to see Damien Harris get plenty of carries on the ground. I mean, he's probably going to get 13 to 15 carries, maybe a few targets. At 10,200, he's not my favorite pay-up option. I would rather play Crowder, I'd rather play Cam, I'd rather play Joe Flacco, but I don't mind Harris. If I'm going to play one of the Patriots running backs, I think it is going to be him. But Joe Flacco, I think, is definitely in play. It's a pretty bad matchup against the Patriots defense, a really good defense overall, but look, he's a quarterback, and on Showdown slates, quarterbacks always project out the best. Even though Flacco's not the most high upside QB overall, we can't really fade him on a one-game Showdown slate. I would never play Joe Flacco on a main slate, but on a one-game Showdown slate where we don't have a ton of options overall, even though Flacco at this point in his career really doesn't have much upside, if he gets 14, 15 points a night, he could still be in the winning lineup, in the optimal lineup, just because there's not really many other guys to project for that amount of points, even priced above him. There's just not a lot of guys you're going to feel very confident in, on this Showdown slate. So I think playing the quarterbacks, just getting the floor that the quarterbacks have, is probably going to be the way that I go. I'm going to definitely try and pay it for both. If I can only play one, I'd rather get Cam in there, but I'm going to try and get to both quarterbacks if possible. That might mean that I have to go cheap at captain, but I am fine doing that. I think there are some, cheaper captains that do give us at least some upside. So really like both quarterbacks overall. I think both most likely will be in a large majority of my lineups. Definitely would want at least one of the two. Normally I don't make lineups without either quarterback. I usually have at least one of the two quarterbacks. But then Jacoby Myers, next guy up at 9K. So first game without Julian Edelman and without N'Keal Harry. He saw 10 targets, 6 catches for 58 yards last week against Buffalo. Had a really solid game overall. The volume should be there. This isn't a Patriots team that passes much at all. Cam's probably only going to throw the ball 20 to 25 times, but if Jacoby Myers is going to see 7, 8 targets at 9K, he's viable. I don't think he has much upside just because this Patriots passing offense as a whole doesn't really have much upside. I don't really see a scenario where Cam throws for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's not what he does in this offense. They're just a run-heavy team. Cam, he'll do his damage on the ground. This is a Patriots team that just wants to run the ball as much as possible. These guys are in play like Myers and Bird just because, due to the injuries, they're going to see more volume. They're going to be on the field more. But at their price points, I don't think either guys are going to be, guys that I go out of my way to play. If I had to play one of the two Patriots receivers between Myers or Bird, probably would rather go with Myers just because I think his target volume is a little bit more secure. But last week with no Harry or Edelman, Damiere Byrd also got 4 targets, 3 catches, 39 yards. They're pretty much going to be the top 2 receivers. They're going to be out there on the field a ton. If I'm going to target Patriots receivers, those are the guys I want to go to. But like I said, I think just playing Cam Newton at captain and really not playing any of these pass catchers is definitely a way you can go because, we could see a scenario where Cam puts up 22, 23 fantasy points and none of these pass catchers really do much because, Cam can kind of do it himself. But then you have the Patriots defense, probably overpriced for me. Normally I don't go out of my way to play defenses on Showdown slates, especially not when they're really priced up. And with the Patriots defense being 7,400, I really won't be going there. Obviously it's a good matchup against the Jets. They could definitely force some turnovers, but you kind of need them to, kind of luck box into a pick six or a scoop and score. If they don't do that, they're probably not going to pay off their salary. If I'm going to play someone in that range, I'd rather just get up to Myers or just drop down to, Damiere Byrd. James White, not the biggest fan of. This just doesn't feel like the game where James White sees a ton of volume. We want to target James White in games where, New England's playing from behind, and I just don't think that's going to be the case here. He only got 4 touches last week, 2 carries, and then 4 targets. That was a game where they were it was kind of like neck and neck. But we saw like against Kansas City when they were playing from behind, you got 8 targets from James White. Against Denver, they were playing from behind, 9 targets. He barely played against San Francisco, but that was kind of like a blowout. They didn't really want him out there. It just seems like, you want to target James White in games where the Patriots are going to be trailing, and I don't see that being the case this game, given their 10-point favorites. I'm probably not going to be on James White. I'd rather play Bird over him. James White probably going to be kind of like a fade for me overall. I don't really feel confident in any of these Patriots running backs just because they just, you never know which guy's going to do well, which guy's going to put up the best game. This feels like a kind of like a Damien Harris type game, but I mean, James White could come out there in a third down, say they're in the red zone, it's 3rd and 5, and, they run a little screen pass with James White and he scores a touchdown. I could see that happening, but I'm not really going to bank on that. I just don't feel like this is a game where White is really going to be out there much. So let's go a little bit cheaper, talk about some other guys. So Michael P. Ryan, pretty much the starting running back for the Jets now. It's like him and Frank Gore splitting the carries. With Le'Veon Bell no longer on the team, these are the top 2 guys. Last week against KC, Michael P. Ryan got 8 carries, 2 targets, 2 receptions. Frank Gore, he got 10 carries, I believe, but no receptions or no targets. 10 carries, but no targets. Me personally, I'm not playing Frank Gore. If I'm going to play one of the 2 Jets running backs, it's going to be P. Ryan. I just think Frank Gore literally has no upside at all. He needs to score a touchdown to be a solid play. He is really cheap. He could get 8 to 10 points and maybe, make the winning lineup, but I just don't want to play Frank Gore, man. He's just so bad. I mean, he's going to run the ball. He's going to average 2 yards a carry. He's going to probably get 10 carries for 25 yards, get you 2.5 points. I'm just not going to play Frank Gore. I think Michael P. Ryan gives us the more upside. He's the younger guy. He's the guy you would expect the Jets to be playing. The Jets really have nothing to play for overall this season. I don't really know why they're running Frank Gore out there, when they are 0-8 and they have nothing to play for. I would think they get P. Ryan more touches, especially later on in the season, now that Bell's no longer in the mix. He only got 10 touches last week, but I think he's in excuse me. I think he's in play. I think there's going to be some, pass catching work. He'll get a few targets. It's a tough matchup without a doubt, but there's not many guys you're going to feel too confident in. So if I can get a starting running back for $5,800, there's at least a path for him to pay off this price tag. Could maybe get a goal line touchdown. I assume if they get down to the goal line, P. Ryan's probably the guy that's going to be punching it in. I mean, you never really know in that situation, but yeah, if I'm going to play one of the 2 Jets running backs, it's definitely going to be Michael P. Ryan. Then you have Braxton Berrios, Denzel Mims. So Berrios I'm kind of off of. With Jamison Crowder expected back, I just don't really want to go to Berrios. He saw 11 targets last week, 8 catches, 38 yards, but he's been playing a lot more because Crowder has been out. I believe Crowder was out last week, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Crowder hasn't played since week 6. Berrios has kind of been their slot receiver in place of Crowder. Now that Crowder's back, or at least is expected back, I don't really know how much Berrios is going to play, so I'm not really going to be on him. I think Denzel Mims is fine to go to at $5K. Last week he was kind of popular, on the main slate. He was minimum salary. Didn't do much against Kansas City, just 2 catches for 42 yards on 3 targets. Look, you're not gonna feel great about any of these Jets receivers, but Mims is one of their younger guys. You would expect him to be on the field a decent amount. You would expect him to start, kind of carve out a role as the season moves on. You would think they're gonna go away from some of these older guys and start playing these younger guys more. I expect that to be the case with Denzel Mims. Stephon Gilmore is out for the Patriots, so that makes it a little bit of a better matchup. I assume Mims plays on the outside, so if Gilmore were playing, Gilmore might be on him, but Gilmore's not playing. So it's a little bit of a better spot for Mims. Between him and Berrios, I would definitely rather go to Berrios. Perriman, I think, is also a guy I like. I think Mims and Perriman are definitely cheap captain plays I'm going to be looking to, just because I could see a scenario where they maybe score a touchdown. Maybe they finish with 5 catches, 50 yards, and a touchdown, and that's enough for them to be in the winning lineup at captain. Because I just don't see this being a high-scoring game. I don't think you're going to see anyone really, go off and put up 30-plus DK points unless it's someone like Crowder or maybe someone like Cam Newton. I think getting 15 from Perriman and the captain could be good enough at his cheap price tag. Going with either him or Mims at captain, it's going to allow you to pay up for all those top-tier options that give us the highest floors, which is what I'm really looking for. I'm looking for floors on this slate because I think quarterbacks, in my opinion, have the highest floors, and I definitely want to try and get the quarterbacks in. All these guys have really, really low floors, But like quarterbacks, even a bad game for Flacco, he could still give you 14, 15, like I said earlier. Same with Cam Newton. If Rashad Perriman puts up a bad game, you could get literally 2-3 fantasy points from him. But he does have the potential to see, 7, 8 targets. He's going to be, kind of like their number 2 receiver behind Crowder. I assume it's going to be Crowder in the slot and then Perriman and Mims on the outside. They'll obviously mix in Barrios some. They'll maybe mix in like Jeff Smith as well. But I think, Perriman's going to be on the field for a good amount of snaps. At 4,200, him and Mims are definitely 2 cheaper options that I have interest in. Sandwiched in between them is Rex Burkhead. Probably not going to be on Rex Burkhead unless somehow Damien Harris winds up out, but all signs are pointing to Harris playing. Last week, Burkhead only got 7 touches. The week before that, 7 touches. Just not getting enough volume. Sure, he could somehow score a touchdown. Maybe he comes in on a play and they throw a screen pass to him and he scores a touchdown. Or maybe, he gets a goal line carry and he scores a touchdown. That could always happen. But it seems like he's kind of behind Damien Harris on the totem pole right now. He's pretty much like he's kind of behind James White as well. He's their 3rd string running back at this point. I don't really want to play Rex Burkhead at 4,600. I'd rather play, Mims or Perriman in that same price range. The Jets defense, I think, is fine at 4K. If I'm going to play one of the defenses, I'd rather just play the really cheap one, play the Jets. Cam Newton, although I really like Cam Newton, I think he's one of the better plays on this Showdown slate. He has shown that, he can turn the ball over. He'll take sacks. He'll fumble the ball. He'll throw interceptions. So the Jets defense for 4K is actually in play for me. I don't mind them at all. One of the 2 kickers, if you want to go to, never have a problem with that. Normally, I don't play both kickers, but if you want to play either Castillo or Folk, you could definitely play one of those 2 guys. Frank Gore, I said, not really going to be on. Just doesn't feel like he has any upside at this point. Sony Michel's interesting. I'm not sure if he's going to be back for this game. He's been on IR. He hasn't played since week 3. It looks like right here in the blurb that he returned to practice on the 5th, so that was on Wednesday or on Thursday. He returned to practice. It says right here that Michel's 21-day window to be activated IR commences, and if the running back has a setback-free week of practice, he could return to the Patriots backfield mix as soon as Monday night against the Jets. So if Sony Michel is active, I haven't seen any update on this, but if he's active, he's only 2,200. How many touches is he going to get in his first game back from injury? I really have no idea. It's going to be like a 4-headed committee, assuming Harris plays. If Michel's active and Harris is active, they're going to have Harris, they're going to have White, they're going to have Burkhead, and then they're going to have Michel. I don't know who gets the touches here. I could see a scenario where Harris gets 15, Michel gets 6, Burkhead gets 5, White gets 5. You just don't really know. 2,200, he's really, really cheap. There's at least a path for him to be a solid play at this cheap price tag. If Sony Michel gets 8 points, you could see him make the winning lineup, and he could be in the winning GPP lineup with just 8 points. I'll be definitely keeping an eye on this, on his status. I'm assuming he's questionable. I haven't really seen much. It says that he can be activated off IR though, so that'll be something to monitor heading up to lock. We'll know actives and inactives hour and a half before the game starts, so around 7 o'clock Eastern time. Once that comes out, once actives and inactives come out, if we get word that Michel's going to be active, at 2,200, he's definitely going to be someone I have some interest in as a really, really cheap option. Chris Herndon, 1,600 is really cheap, but he just hasn't been involved this season. He's someone that I was high on coming into the year, but they're just not involving him. He's not getting the targets. He's really, really hard to trust. Probably won't be going there. I don't really want to play like Jeff Smith. At this point, he's pretty much like their 4th string wide receiver, their 5th string wide receiver. He got 8 targets last week, but with Crowder back, Smith, that's just another guy he's going to have to fight for targets, so I don't really want to go to Jeff Smith. I won't really be playing like Ryan Izzo or anybody under here, so I think we covered the player pool. I think we kind of talked about everyone that I think is at least in play. So let's go ahead and hit on roster construction real quick before we do end the video. So like I said at the beginning, I want to try and play both quarterbacks on this Showdown slate, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that, if I pay up at captain. So it might make sense to go a little bit cheaper. I think one of these cheap Jets receivers could be viable captain plays, whether that's Mims or Perriman. I don't really want to play Barrios because I think he's going to lose snaps with Crowder back, but Mims and Perriman should still be on the field a good amount. Between the two, I think Mims probably has more upside. I think he's just the more talented receiver. I feel a little bit better about his volume as well. So let's do a lineup with Mims at captain, see what it allows us to do. I do want to try to get both quarterbacks, so let's go ahead and plug in Cam in there. Let's go ahead and plug in Joe Flacco in there, and that leaves us 66.33 remaining per player for our last 3 spots. So there's a lot of ways we could go here. We could maybe try and pay up for Jamison Crowder and just kind of go like full star studded. You know, I don't know if we'll be able to do that. We got 4,350 once we plug in Crowder. We could maybe go with Perriman, and then that would leave us enough to play like one of the kickers. So yeah, that's a build we could do that I really have no problems with at all. You got Mims in there at captain with both quarterbacks. You got Crowder, Perriman, Castillo, and like I said, I have no problem playing Cam Newton in none of his pass catchers because we could see a scenario, like I said earlier, Cam runs it in, does the damage himself. I mean, he could throw for 100 yards, 1 touchdown, and still, you know, like I said, put up 20 DK points because he can, you know, rush for 60 yards and a touchdown. Like, we could see a scenario where Cam is in the winning GPP lineup and none of his pass catchers are in the winning GPP lineup. So I don't have a problem at all playing Cam Newton without any of his pass catchers. So I do have a good amount of interest in this lineup. I think this lineup does make some sense. You know, we could go a little bit cheaper than that and maybe play, you know, Perriman at captain, kind of do the same build, go with Cam, go with Jamison Crowder, go with Flacco. If we were to plug Mims into this build as well, that really wouldn't make much of a difference. Pretty much the only difference is we'd be able to get up to Burkhead over the kickers, but honestly, I think I'd rather play one of the 2 kickers over Burkhead. But maybe we could take out Crowder and kind of go a little bit more towards this mid-range. We could maybe play one of his pass catchers, whether that's Myers or Bird. Like I said, I feel like Myers, his volume is more secure right now. I think he has more target volume upside. If there's a guy that's going to see like 8 to 10 targets, I think it is Myers. So let's plug him in at 9K, and now that leaves us about 6K remaining per player for our last 2 spots. We could go like Mims at 5K. That'd leave us enough to play Demir Bird. So that's another lineup that you could do. That's kind of a 3-3 build. You know, if you're one of those people that likes having, you know, kind of even amounts of players on both sides of you know, each part of the game, then that's a lineup that you could do. I don't really have a problem though playing like 4 or 5 Jets, and then on the Patriots side, like Cam Newton's the only guy that I play from the Patriots. But if I'm going to play any of his pass catchers, it's going to be Myers, it's going to be Bird. Really don't see myself going to like James White or Burkhead or, you know, any of the tight ends either, because they just don't involve the tight ends at all. Really, Myers and Bird feel like the safest guys in terms of targets. You know, if Cam throws the ball 25 times, I feel like Myers probably gets 8 or 9 targets. Bird probably gets like 6 or 7. You may see James White get a couple. Maybe Rex Burkhead gets a couple. Maybe, you know, one of the tight ends sees like 1 or 2 targets. But most confident in definitely Myers and Bird in terms of like Patriots pass catchers. But yeah, guys, that's kind of what I'm looking for the Showdown slate. You know, how I'm looking to approach it. It's definitely not the most fun game overall. It's tough to build lineups on the Showdown slate because just all these guys, besides like Crowder, Newton, I guess Flacco, like all these guys just have such low floors. Like I could see a scenario where this game is just gross. It's like winning, or the final score is like 13-10, and like the highest scoring player scores like 20 points. Like it's gonna be a gross game, but I'm still gonna be watching it. I'm still gonna be tuned in. I'm still gonna be playing the Showdown slate. Draftkings, you know, keeps running out big contests, so. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hopefully it helped. If you did enjoy, hit that like button before you do get out of here. Hit the subscribe button as well. Be sure to click that notification bell so that way you do get notified every time I upload. And if you have not yet, if you want to get more content from me, be sure to check out the Patreon link down below. See all that I do have to offer over there. If that does interest you, you can see all that I have to offer on Patreon. But best of luck tonight, guys. Thank you so much for watching the video. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you got some good out of it. Best of luck and good luck tonight, guys. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.